Being able to freehand sharpen a knife is an important skill to have, but many will find it very difficult at first. It definitely takes time and practice, but there's things you need to understand about sharpening a knife to actually be able to successfully do it. If you don't understand what's going on, you won't be able to sharpen the knife correctly. So on a knife, you have the piece of steel. I'll use this knife as an example. There's a lot of different grinds used on knives, but let's just use this to visualize. This one has a saber grind. Here is the flat portion of the blade, and it starts tapering down. That's called a bevel. Now that'll go down until we get to a secondary bevel, and that is actually going to be the edge. That is the part that we sharpen. The hardest thing about freehand sharpening is holding a consistent angle on that edge. So I'm actually going to use a different knife to show what actually happens during sharpening. This is a Mora. It only costs $10. I highly recommend it. Check out my link in the description. However, what's different about this knife, it has what's called a Scandi grind. You have the flat of the blade and then the bevel, except there's no secondary bevel. The entire bevel is the edge itself. Why this is so good for learning to sharpen is that holding the angle is extremely easy. So what actually happens when we sharpen? So we have the knife here. Again, this bevel is the edge. Imagine we cut the knife here, right in the middle, and are looking at it head on. This part is what does the cutting. That's called the apex. That's where the sharpness comes from. On a dull knife, this isn't going to be perfectly angled. It might be rolled a little bit, chipped. What we want to do is get it back to that sharp angle. So what we have to do is grind down the bevel flat, like this, on the stone until we get that apex sharp again. There's nice stones, junky stones. The Sharpen stones like this one are good and not too expensive, but don't think you need expensive stones to sharpen. You can use a cheap generic stone for a few dollars from the hardware store. Just don't overpay for generic stones online because there's a lot of them. So let's start by grinding the one side down. Now this is why a Scandi grind is so good to start, because you just have to lay that bevel flat on the stone. A tip to keep that angle on the tip is by locking your wrist and raising your elbow to get to the tip. We want to do only this one side until we feel a burr. A burr is a strand of metal that forms over the apex of the edge. It looks like this up close, and you'll feel it catch your finger when you run your finger down. This is very important. You must form a burr on the entire edge of one side before moving to the next. That's because if the burr hasn't formed, you haven't met the apex of the edge to the stone yet. Once you feel the burr along the whole edge, you can switch to the other side. Do the same thing for this side. You'll have to change the direction of your sharpening. Again, you must do this until you feel a burr form on the other side, ensuring that you have touched the apex of the edge. Once you feel that burr, that means that you have successfully met both bevels right in the middle at the apex. You're not done yet. You have to get rid of that burr. So what you should do is with light pressure, alternate between either side and do the same motion as before. This fatigues the burr and it will come off. Do this until you can't feel the burr on either side. At this point, the knife should be sharp. We are going to take it to a strop to polish it even further, but the strop is not going to magically make the knife sharp. If your knife isn't sharp off of the stone after you remove the burr, you haven't done it right. Since the knife is sharp, we're going to use a strop. We're going the opposite way we sharpened on the stone. And we're using light pressure, making sure we're not pushing or adding angle to it. The strop polishes and removes micro burrs, cleaning up the edge. Now the knife should be very sharp, and you have learned how to sharpen a knife. Now this is just with the Scandi grind. The next step is going to be learning how to hold an angle of a secondary bevel. It's a little bit harder, but simply understanding this first will really help you in your sharpening journey. Let me know if this video was helpful. Check out the links to Amazon in the description for this knife and a couple nice stones. Thanks for watching. Like the video, subscribe, and I'll see you later.